She thought $2,000 could buy her freedom. What she didn't realize, it was about to cost her everything. Look, I'm going to tell you about a 23-year-old who walked into a courtroom like she owned it. Designer sunglasses, manicured nails, phone in hand like a loaded weapon. And the first words out of her mouth? "I'll buy this court." Yeah, she actually said that. But here's what makes this story different. Here's why you need to hear this. Because what happened next didn't just change her life. It exposed something broken in all of us, something we don't want to admit. Let me take you back to that morning, October 19th, 9:47 a.m. Providence, Rhode Island. Traffic's backed up. Construction. Everyone's sitting there, waiting their turn like normal human beings. But Sloan Whitmore? She's got a lunch reservation at noon. She's got places to be, people to see. So she does what people like her always do. She takes the emergency lane. Now picture this. You're 72 years old. Your name is Margaret Chen. 3 months ago, you had hip surgery. You're using a walker, moving slow. But you're independent. You're proud. You've raised kids, built a life, survived things most of us can't imagine. The light changes. The walk signal lights up. You start crossing. And then you hear it. An engine. Revving. Getting closer. Margaret looks up. White Mercedes. Coming straight at her. Not slowing. Not stopping. She tries to move. Her walker catches. She stumbles backward, hits the curb, falls. Her chest is pounding. Her hands are shaking. And the Mercedes, gone. Didn't even tap the brakes. A crossing guard calls it in. Dashcam catches the whole thing. And now we're here, in Judge Frank Caprio's courtroom. The same judge who became famous for showing mercy to people who couldn't afford their parking tickets. The same judge who once dismissed a fine for a man who had to choose between medication and a citation. That judge. And Sloan Whitmore is about to test him in ways he's never been tested before. The clerk reads the charges. Reckless driving, failure to yield, misuse of emergency lane, attempted bribery of a law enforcement officer, verbal contempt. Sloan rolls her eyes. Not nervous, not sorry, bored. Judge Caprio looks at her. Doesn't raise his voice. Doesn't need to. He's got this quiet power, the kind that comes from seeing 10,000 people stand where she's standing. Some scared, some angry, some genuinely sorry. But entitlement, that's rare. "Ms. Whitmore," he says, "do you understand the charges?" She shrugs. Actually shrugs. "Sure. I drove in a lane I wasn't supposed to. Big deal. Nobody got hurt." Nobody got hurt. Let that sink in for a second. This woman came within 2 feet of ending a grandmother's life, and her first instinct is to minimize it, to make it smaller than it is, to pretend that because Margaret didn't die, nothing bad happened. But something did happen. Margaret couldn't sleep that night, couldn't cross streets without panicking. Had to have her daughter drive her to therapy because she was too terrified to take the bus. All because someone in a white Mercedes decided her lunch reservation mattered more than human life. Officer Natalie Cruz takes the stand. She's been doing this job for 6 years. She's seen everything. But when she talks about this stop, you can hear something different in her voice. Not anger. Something deeper. Disgust. "I pulled her over," Officer Cruz says. And she laughed at me. Laughed. She said, "Do you know who my father is, Grant Whitmore? He owns half the city. You're about to lose your job." Then came the offer. $2,000. Cash or Venmo. Officer's choice. Just forget the whole thing happened. Let me ask you something. Comment below. When did we start believing that money erases harm? That a stack of bills can undo fear, trauma, pain? Because that's what Sloan believed. Standing there in her designer clothes, phone in hand, she genuinely thought the world operated on one simple principle. Everything has a price, including justice. Judge Caprio plays the body cam footage. Sloan's voice crackles through the speaker. You seriously think this matters? Write whatever ticket you want. My dad will have it dismissed before you finish your shift. Better yet, he'll buy this whole court if he has to. The courtroom goes silent, and Judge Caprio does something unexpected. He asks Margaret to speak. Sloane's eyes widen. Wait, what? She's here. Yeah, she's here. Margaret rises from the back row. Walker, clicking softly. Gray hair pulled into a neat bun. Cardigan buttoned to the top. She doesn't look at Sloane, doesn't need to. Her presence alone says everything. Judge Caprio's voice softens. Mrs. Chen, thank you for being here. Can you tell us what happened? And Margaret tells her story. The fear, the fall, the panic attack in the middle of the street, the nightmares, the therapy appointment she missed, the daughter who had to rearrange her life because her mother couldn't feel safe anymore. Sloane interrupts. I saw you move. You were fine. Wrong move. Judge Caprio's voice cuts through the courtroom. Not loud, just present. Ms. Whitmore, you will not speak while Mrs. Chen is testifying. Margaret continues, and this is the part that breaks you. I'm not asking for anything, she says. I just wanted to say that it matters. What you did matters. I'm somebody's mother, somebody's grandmother. I matter. I matter. 3 words that should be obvious. 3 words that shouldn't need to be said. But in that moment, in that courtroom, they're everything. Because Sloane had forgotten. Or maybe she'd never learned. That every person you pass on the street, every face in traffic, every body in a crosswalk, they're real. They're whole. They matter. Sloane's phone rings. It's her dad, Grant Whitmore. And Judge Caprio does something brilliant. He puts it on speaker. The whole courtroom listens as Grant Whitmore offers a substantial donation to make this go away, to resolve things amicably. And Judge Caprio asks him one simple question. Mr. Whitmore, do you have a mother? Pause. Yes, of course. And if your mother were crossing the street, recovering from surgery, and someone nearly struck her with their car and drove away, how would you feel? Longer pause. I'd be furious. Would money make it right? Silence. Because that's the thing about privilege. It works great until you imagine it happening to someone you love. Then, suddenly, the rules matter. Suddenly, accountability isn't optional. Judge Caprio doesn't yell, doesn't lecture. He just dismantles the entire worldview, piece by piece. Mr. Whitmore, your daughter didn't just break traffic laws. She endangered a life. She tried to bribe an officer, and when confronted, she laughed. Now, I understand you want to protect her, but protection isn't the same as enabling, and money cannot buy this court. Here's what Sloane doesn't expect. Judge Caprio doesn't send her to jail, doesn't throw the book at her. Instead, he gives her something harder, a chance to change. 120 hours of community service. Not picking up trash. Not sitting in an office. But working with a senior mobility center. Helping people like Margaret get to their appointments. Lifting walkers. Steadying arms. Listening to stories about the fear that comes with aging in a world that moves too fast. A defensive driving course. In person. Where she has to watch videos of real accidents. Real families who lost real people. A letter of apology, written by hand, explaining what she learned and how she'll do better. And one more thing, a public safety talk. At a local college. Standing in front of students her age, telling them exactly what she did. No PR spin, no excuses, just truth. Sloane accepts. What choice does she have? The first week of community service destroys her. She shows up in yoga pants and a designer jacket. Gets handed a clipboard and a vest. Expects to answer phones. Instead, she meets Harold. 84 years old. Dialysis patient. Hands shaking so badly, he can barely grip his cane. Sloane holds her breath every time he takes a step, terrified he'll fall. When they finally get him in the van, he turns to her and smiles. "Thank you, dear. You're very kind." She doesn't feel kind. She feels ashamed. Week 2, she meets Linda. Small, frail, walker, reminds her of Margaret. Linda tells her about the car accident that shattered her pelvis, the months of recovery, the fear she still carries. "People don't look anymore," Linda says. "They're on their phones in a hurry. They don't care, but we're still here. We still matter." And Sloane thinks about her own phone, the text she sent that morning. How casually she treated Margaret's life. By week 3, something shifts. She stops checking her watch, stops thinking about what she's missing, starts paying attention. She learns Harold's dialysis schedule by heart, brings Linda's favorite tea, listens when a veteran named Thomas tells war stories without interrupting. And one day, a woman named Doris grabs her hand. "You're different than you were," Doris says. "When you started, you looked miserable. Now you look like you're actually here. What changed?" Sloane doesn't know how to answer. "I think," she says slowly, "I'm starting to understand that people matter, that I'm not more important than anyone else just because I have money." Doris squeezes her hand. "That's a good lesson, honey. Most people go their whole lives without learning that." The letter to Margaret takes 3 weeks, 12 drafts, each one feeling inadequate. Finally, she writes something simple. "Dear Mrs. Chen, I don't know if this will mean anything to you, but I needed to write it anyway. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for almost hitting you, for driving away, for dismissing you in court, for treating you like you didn't matter. You did matter. You do matter. And I was wrong." She continues, "I've spent months working with people like you, and I've learned that we all matter. We're all somebody's mother, somebody's friend, somebody who deserves dignity. I can't change what I did, but I promise I'll never do it again. Thank you for being brave enough to show up that day and give me a chance to be better." She submits it, hands shaking. The public safety talk happens on a Wednesday. 40 students. Sloane stands at the front, palms sweating. "Hi," she says. "My name is Sloane Whitmore, and I'm here because I almost killed someone." The room goes silent. She tells them everything: the emergency lane, the red light, the fall, the bribe, the arrogance. "If you remember one thing," she says, "remember this. Every time you get behind the wheel, you're holding lives in your hands. And those lives matter more than your schedule, your convenience, your ego. Please don't wait until you've hurt someone to learn that lesson." Someone raises their hand. "Do you think you've changed?" Sloane considers it. "I think I'm trying to, every day. I think that's all any of us can do." December 18th, final court date. Sloane stands in the same spot where this began. But she's different now. Humbler, quieter, real. Judge Caprio reviews the file. 120 hours completed. Course passed. Letter submitted. Talk delivered. "Ms. Whitmore," he says, "when you first stood here, you told me I could be bought. But you've done something remarkable since then. You've grown. You've proven that accountability isn't punishment. It's opportunity. I'm proud of the work you've done. This case is closed." Sloane's eyes fill with tears, but she's smiling. As she turns to leave, she sees Margaret in the back row. She walks over, careful, respectful. "Mrs. Chen, I just wanted to say thank you for being here, for giving me a chance, for not giving up on me." Margaret takes her hand. "I never gave up on you, dear. I just needed you to see that I was real, that I mattered. And you did. That's all I ever wanted." Sloane squeezes her hand. "Then let's go." She walks out with her head high and her heart lighter, into a future that finally feels like it's built on something solid. Look, here's why this story matters. We live in a world that tells us everything has a price, that money buys happiness, status, freedom, immunity. And for a while, If you have enough of it, that actually feels true. But there's one thing money can't buy: the person you become when nobody's watching. Sloane learned that the hard way, but she learned it. And maybe that's the point. Maybe change isn't about one big moment, it's about 100 small ones. Harold's shaking hands, Linda's fear, Doris's wisdom, Margaret's dignity. Maybe redemption looks like showing up, listening, caring about people you'll never profit from. Maybe it looks like admitting you were wrong and meaning it. Comment ready if this hit you. If you've ever realized that the world doesn't revolve around you, that other people's pain is real, that we're all connected in ways we can't afford to ignore. And if you found value in this story, subscribe. Because we're diving into more real moments like this. Moments where people face themselves and choose to become better. This was based on real courtroom principles, dramatized for impact. But the lesson, that's 100% real. See you in the next one.